Welcome to morning markets. So, what have we seen on Bitcoin? Well, we reclaimed 110K. That was the original trigger. We then consolidated yesterday morning, and we did not break the low as mentioned in morning markets yesterday. Instead, we actually broke this weekly open level on this candle here, and that led to a move to the first liquidity target that I mentioned to you guys in the video. So as you can see, I mapped out two paths. I said if we take the low, then I'd probably expect price to bleed and drift lower, filling in this gap. But if we invalidate the sweep and break above, then I can see price actually heading towards this first liquidity level here. And from there, we reassess and look to see if momentum's still strong or if there is any reversal patterns forming. So that's exactly what played out. As I said, we didn't break this low, held the 1 hour, 12 and 21 EMA bands, got above that weekly open, that all important level to put every bull who got long on that opening candle in profit. So that leads to reflexive buying, as I mentioned. So no surprise to see this first liquidity target hit. There was clear room for a short squeeze, as I mentioned in the order flow analysis. So now we just want to see what is going on in the overnight session since then. So first of all, we've hit the liquidity level. We pushed above it, closed above it, and we actually finished the New York session above it. But since then, overnight, we have slowly bled back down and are closing below that liquidity level now. Perhaps there's some longs that have got over leveraged in this final part of the rally. So what I'd be looking for is if this low starts to break, then you can see a move where Bitcoin either has a quick flush down to the weekly open or that slower bleeding move. Not sure which one we get, but that would be a trigger for me to say that we're probably going to have to flush longs, because once you start filling in this gap, the entire gap tends to fill. So that's why I say closing below this low over here probably leads to a retest of this consolidation and that weekly open level. But as a bull, what you're looking for, if we do get that scenario, is the weekly open to hold and support on the retest. You want to see that form a higher low and get a strong bid if we do come down. So keep an eye on that. Of course, if we do just lose the weekly open, then that actually is a bearish signal and we're probably going to come back to 110. So any pullbacks, I'd be looking at the weekly open area to hold. And if that does hold, then you can push on higher. If we lose it, then you're probably looking towards 110. So watch this low as your trigger today, as there is some signs of momentum getting exhausted in the rally. As longs, of course, they do end up chasing after the bulk of the move has played out. And another interesting thing is, if you remember this chart, where I took the volume profile of Bitcoin from this distribution to the breakdown, where has Bitcoin come to? Well, it's come back to the value area low, which is where so far we've seen a low time frame pullback. And it's no surprise because, again, this is the consolidation leading into the FOMC interest rate cut. This is where longs built up. So as price comes back to this area, those same longs, the question is, do they take profit, cut their losses, exit on break even, which adds to selling pressure, or does the demand actually overwhelm them, which will be seen with price accepting above the value area low? So if price can actually start closing back in this box, get above the value area low, I think that then sets up a move at least to the POC. And if not, potentially the value area high at 120K. So would look to remove at that liquidity level over here before price reverses, if not a move to 120. And that is because it shows price acceptance within an area that previously was distribution, because it led to the down move. Supply outweighed demand. So at the moment, we've hit in that level, and this is an area where Bitcoin could definitely reject, and you could see it try to get above that level, and it ultimately fails because sellers overpower any buyers trying to push price into this area of distribution. So keep that in mind. This is a short squeeze. We have moved up pretty vertically, so would be no surprise to see a pullback start forming here. And that's why I say back to your low time frame. If we close below this low, probably going to head towards the weekly open. And from the weekly open, you just want to see, does price reverse and give you one of those reversal patterns, or does price actually lose the level, come through it, have that lower high bounce, and then come back down? So those are the two scenarios to look for on any pullbacks. And of course, if we reclaim at 115k value area low level, then you're probably looking at, as I said, the weekend liquidity and the POC from the other image. So get above here, start accepting there, and you can push for that easy weekend target. And then from there, just looking to see, can price accept now above that value area low and build a base higher. So that's it for Bitcoin. If we check the data on low time frames, what we're seeing here is Bitcoin moved up, and then in the latest move overnight, we've seen actually the green CVD, so spot, have been selling at the market on net, whereas perps have been flat. So it's perps that are holding up the market in this latest move. Funding, the rate of change has spiked up massively this morning, so probably is some longs here which are in danger of being flushed out. Anyone getting longs at the high here is going to be badly positioned, with stops at the low here as mentioned, and potentially a move to fill in the gap towards this order block would also trigger a bunch of stops. So we have got a build up of open interest here. You can see from this candle here, open interest is up 1.58%, and price at the same time is up 1.45%. So fairly healthy. Nothing that says this is extremely over leveraged, since this isn't outpacing price by really that much at all. However, there is signs to say that at least this portion of the move up here has been held up by the futures market. Therefore, pretty easy New York Open to flush some longs, even if it then reverses higher. As I said, find support at that weekly open. So watching that low carefully, as you do have this gap over here, which can get filled, find support, and then take off higher. And of course, alternatively, we lose the weekly open and we start filling in the gaps lower. So that's what I'm looking at on BTC. I think there's easy liquidity in the New York session for longs to get wrecked in the London and Asia build-up that we've seen. So that is what I'm seeing here. Overall, open interest is up 2.75% on the rally. And price, again, is up 2.5%. So we've got 2.75% increase in open interest, 2.5% in price. Again, not over leverage, which does further add confidence to the fact that this is a short squeeze. This is everyone who got hedged on Bitcoin during this downtrend and they didn't exit or take profit on shorts here. They're now getting wrecked, and they are the ones under pressure. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, you have the daily view of Bitcoin, where as long as price is above this low, bears and shorts are the ones under pressure, because open interest has been flat, meaning anything above this low where open interest has been flat, bears, they are in danger, and anything below it, longs, bulls are in danger because open interest hasn't been closing. So that means longs and shorts have stayed open despite all of the price movement, all of the lows and highs that have been made. Therefore, that's why that's the pivotable level. Because if you're holding the structure, you're above the structure, longs are on side. Once you're below the structure, longs are offside, and you can see an unwind either direction catalyzed by this open interest. There's a lot of positioning being built up here. So short squeeze, that's what's been playing out. That's what I mentioned to look out for. When we look at the Bitcoin ETF flows, you saw a big day from ETFs. So again, no surprise to just see some selling pre-New York session. Perfectly normal to see Bitcoin find resistance at this value area low, at this distribution box here, and on low time frames. This is what I'm looking at. As soon as we close below this low, probably going to fill in the gap, and from there we reassess to see if support can be built or if support gets lost. So that's what I'm looking at in terms of Bitcoin. When we take a look at Bitcoin dominance, one good thing that we've seen is this is actually rising. I'm not sure how long this can last for, but when Bitcoin rallies and Bitcoin dominance rallies, it actually shows cash is flowing into Bitcoin, which is bullish. Because we've already seen the altcoin rotations. We've seen ETH 3x. We've seen Sol go to 250, 260. We've seen BNB go to new all-time highs. If we want another leg, we need Bitcoin to now start to get back to its highs. You need more profits to be rotating. So you do need to see Bitcoin dominate first. Otherwise, the rally is just going to lose legs and it's going to get sold into. So be on the watch for Bitcoin dominance. Does this start to retrace? Do people get long on altcoins again too early? Because that's what's going to lead to further flushes. If everyone gets too excited for an alt season, then everyone's just going to have to get flushed out. And of course, we then can't have nice things. So you want to see Bitcoin dominance continue rising and this be a Bitcoin fueled rally, and the rotations to begin from higher, because then there's more profits to rotate into the altcoin market. And looking at altcoins, starting with Ethereum. So what have we seen? Well, Ethereum hit my first target. So it hit this consolidation high. That's where I said, look to see if it can flip this level or if it rejects. So far, we've rejected it, but that was the target hit. So anything on ETH, you're really looking at above 4096, so above the high time frame SR level. Bulls are in control. Bulls have the momentum. Below it, bears take over and longs are under pressure again. So you do not want to see Ethereum lose this high time frame SR level, as you're probably going to then have to retrace almost all of this rally, maybe form a double bottom here. I'm not sure, but point is above there, bulls are good. So any pullbacks, you don't want to see it go lower than this level. You want to see it hold, build a base, consolidate, which can set up a move for higher. And then really you want to see price start closing above this consolidation high. So first attempt, you saw breakout buyers get too excited with too much leverage. Sellers came in, flushed them down, and they're now getting wrecked and bled out. But if we can actually close above there, not just wick, then you do have a gap on ETH here, which can get quickly filled. And maybe this happens towards the latter end of the week as we go into the weekend, since ETF flows are less dominant. Therefore, altcoins tend to get favored more, since Bitcoin gets all the attention during the week, and then altcoins get the attention once TradFi and Wall Street aren't active. So you could see later towards the end of the week, ETH actually outperform, since it has underperformed on the day against Bitcoin. However, anything above the high time frame SR is bullish, and if we can close above the consolidation high, you can potentially see a move where you start to fill in this gap pretty quickly. So potentially more base building needed on ETH, but as soon as you close above there, that's a trigger to look for longs for me, to trade it towards the gap fill and really this cluster of order blocks here. And of course, you also have that weekend high on Ethereum, which no doubt is going to be weak. So that can get targeted very easily in October if we do start to get above this consolidation high. Because then that's showing price acceptance. It's confirming the reversal. You're confirming above, which on the 4-hour is your structure level. This is the high which led to the low. So you have to close above here to invalidate the downtrend. Therefore, that's why that's the confirmation for me to then look for longs to trade the move into the gap. So everything's good on ETH. First target hit. Now just want to see support hold. And I think we can then look at ETH in a range. So if you zoom out to the daily on ETH, we're coming into the daily 12 and 21 band. So it's definitely a place where we could reject. Keep that in mind, guys. We have hit consolidation high. We've not closed above it yet. So you're watching 4096 to hold on any pullbacks. But if it can hold on pullbacks, it does make a reversal likely. And then you can trade this range on ETH where you can look at it to a target of the 0.5. So that's the mid pay of the range. And you can also then look at even this premium zone. So if we get a fresh chart on ETH so you can visualize it better, what you can see is price. It's attempting to form a reversal here, a sweep of this liquidity. And if you can see it complete the reversal, then that's going to lead to nice range trades between these quadrants. So at the moment, you're in the premium zone, which is over here. And we are currently trading in a discount zone. So if you can see ETH start to close above that consolidation high, low time frame, break that bearish market structure, then I'll be looking to trade ETH to the 0.5 or even this premium zone over here. So trade ETH through the ranges if it can confirm that reversal. But again, the reversal doesn't happen until you break this structure level with a close at 4229. So that's what I'm looking at in terms of ETH. And when we look at ETH Bitcoin, what we're seeing is it's had a lovely rally within a downtrend. So this is just a bounce. It's not a trend shift on ETH. However, you're now coming into the point where this needs to bounce and actually start to outperform Bitcoin, which for the wider market, probably not what you want to see. You want to see Bitcoin dominance outperform, but we don't always get what we want. So interesting to see on ETH here, can it hold these bands? Does that then produce a bounce where we see ETH outperformance? I'm not sure, but I think eventually ETH will have another decent run if it can put in that reversal, because that does show some strength on the coin. So lastly, looking at Solana. And what we can see here is Sol. You've got this weekly open level that it completely retraced last week. We found resistance at 240, 250, 260. And if we actually go to the Sol Binance chart, I mapped out some paths last week for you guys. I mapped out this green path, which has been playing out pretty nicely so far. And that's really what you want to see on Sol from here. You just want to see it start to build a base, confirm this as the low with some sort of failure to return pattern, or maybe it's a sweep that's needed. Overall, you just want to see a reversal get put in here. Might need to wick lower and then continue on from there. But as long as you see Solana can bottom here above the yearly open, well then from there you can say, okay, Solana's building a base. Yes, it had a big move which got immediately retraced, which isn't the most bullish signal. However, as long as it doesn't break below the yearly open, there's also not a bearish signal. So while we're above that yearly open, you're just looking, can we consolidate and build a base for higher later on? And if we lose the yearly open, then you're looking at these liquidity levels lower. But when it comes to Sol, you're looking at the Sol ETH chart. that's going to tell you when it's going to outperform. And at the moment, it has come into high time frame resistance. So mapped out this path a couple weeks ago. Yes, ETH had been massively outperforming SOL, but charts don't go down forever. That's why you saw this bounce here. But it is just a bounce in a downtrend until you actually take this market structure level over here. And so far, you can see it's bounced right into the bands, just like this path which I mapped out. And it's so far finding resistance there, meaning that SOL probably isn't the coin you want to look to trade on the long side, as it's not outperforming. It's not got that relative strength. And it's the same story when you look at SOL Bitcoin. Had its lovely run, but again, you tried to close above these levels, get back in this range. It's rejected so far, and we've closed below. So as long as you're below, this is going to underperform. And if you can start closing above again, well, then you can look at SOL to outperform again. It's that simple. Those are your triggers. But till then, it's no surprise. We saw this huge rally get immediately retraced. So was a show of weakness by that regard. So that is the full market update. If we look at gold quickly, see what's happening in TradFi land. Well, gold had a nice breakout yesterday, continuing higher on this trend. This morning, we've seen some heavy selling come in as it tried to push up, which is interesting. If we go to the lower time frames, what are we seeing? Well, H1 bands provided support, produced a new high, but now they are not providing support. We're actually seeing gold retrace this move, which could be a good sign for Bitcoin, as long as it's not too violent. And really, you're just looking now, if gold can just consolidate around here, that's going to be very bullish for Bitcoin, because that's going to allow Bitcoin to now take stage, as gold has had all the fun. So I'll be watching gold carefully here. So you've got a consolidation, which should hold as support. As long as it does, gold is still bullish for higher. It's just going to mean it's got a pullback here, and it's going to need to digest the move, consolidate, which is bullish Bitcoin, bullish for crypto. And if it can do that, well, I'll then be looking to see Bitcoin, can it outperform, and what levels can we hit from there? So interesting on gold, look for this support zone to hold. That's going to be a daily order block here. So you can even take this tighter and use this order block. However, 12 hours to go. So let's see where this actually finishes for the day. A lot can happen, and it can potentially break higher, and this could just be an early morning pullback. But yeah, on gold, let's see what happens in the New York session. Quick look at stocks. So far, not been able to produce a new high off the bounce from those daily 12 and 21 bands, but still yet to be seen. Can we produce a new high off them? If so, that's your trend support. If not, trend support is being disrespected, and you have to look at potential lower trend support here. So interesting to see if stocks break down. Probably would be some sort of risk off move if they do come back, but they would be coming back into support. And if they still got momentum, then they're going to respect these 12 and 21 bands and produce new highs from here. So that's the full market update. Manage risk, take your setups, look for your triggers. And until then, we're in a short squeeze on Bitcoin, on crypto. So play it as it is. If you see reversal signs, don't ignore it, because short squeeze, they do run out at some point. And if they do run out, you just want to see, can higher lows form, and see Bitcoin and crypto build a base above their recent local lows on that flush we had last week. So that's the full update. See you guys in the next one.